This episode of We Are Libertarians is brought to you by Audible.com. Enjoy one free audiobook courtesy of We Are Libertarians. Choose from more than 100,000 audiobook titles, including works by Ron Paul, Walter Block, Murray Rothbard, and the Cato Institute. Audible.com also has audio of radio and TV programs and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. You can get the Audible app on any mobile device or download the audio to your computer. Go to audibletrial.com/WAL or head to WeareLibertarians.com and find the link to get one free month of Audible today.
Shorty, get down, grab your keyboard. Got a website you must see now. For libertarian viewpoints, this is your joint. Turn the Fox News down. Commentary is a forte, each and every day. True play away. I can't get it out of my mind. Wow. I think about the podcast all the time. Wow. A national to the state news. Trust these dudes, it's really, really cool. Spangle, Harrington, and Gault, it's not their fault. Government be acting like some fool. Greg Benson, Joe Ruiz, got some entertaining things for you to read. Oh, baby, it's a perfect 10. If you wanna get in, better read now so you can win. Oh, we are libertarians. No diggity. You gotta look it up. Oh, we are libertarians. No diggity. You gotta look it up. Oh, we are libertarians. No diggity. You gotta look it up. Oh, we are libertarians. No diggity. You gotta look it up.
Welcome to We Are Pussies this week here on... Wait a minute. I'm sorry. We Are Libertarians this week. Joining us, as usual, is Creighton Harrington. I am Chris Spangle.
And Chris Gault here.
Hey, and that's Greg Lenz sitting over there, our token Republican. He's spilling beer on his shirt like a total schlub.
Oh, my God.
This week on the show, we have not prepared one single bit. Normally, we joke about not preparing, but this week we're very, very serious. We spent the week making fun of Chris Gault, who made fun of us back. We'll get to his Google obsession, which has taken a dark turn this week.
Oh, with Google Glasses being announced? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
End of the year.
Oh, my God.
I am coming back from the International Students for Liberty Conference, so I'll talk a little bit about that. And anything else, guys?
I mean, there's some stuff I've kind of thought of that
you went to, Creighton?
I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go?
No.
Nope, I'm done working at the Marriott, so I had to finish that off.
I do think it's been an interesting development with the IMS, that it looks like it was designed to boost the sale price for the home and family.
Yeah, the International Motor Speedway, Indianapolis Motor Speedway this week was approved a bailout. We've talked about it on past episodes, and then today it leaked that they might be up for sale, and Tony George might be buying the Speedway back, which is good because he actually had some vision. So essentially,
Is the lady running it now blind or something?
Well,
it's his sisters.
It's his mom, and she's been Mary. So that's when you know you've
Ladies
insulted
and
somebody.
Gentlemen.
You've insulted somebody. You know, hey, guess what? Greg's Greg. It's always a great insult. So the state legislature passed this bill, and I think Greg's right. I think they used the state legislature and the promise of a $100 million bailout to boost the sale price. So it's sort of like, when are we going to learn? Let's start with Chris Gault.
What's up?
Hey. You know, I'm really proud of you, actually, because you've done a really nice job with our Google Plus page.
Oh, thank you. If you don't follow it, you should.
Yes, but you've been an extraordinary pain in the butt this week.
Well, it's what happens when you're right.
Oh, God. So we have a running dialogue amongst each other through the week in our Facebook chat, yes. Ugh. And so several hundred times a day, Creighton posts funny pictures, and we bust each other's behinds.
Pretty much right.
I don't know if you can say balls on Indiana Talks. So
you can start with what you started with,
right? Yeah. Well,
I'm not going to say balls, but
so this week, Chris forever has been saying, "Oh, we've got to get off of Facebook. We've got to get off of here. Facebook is terrible. We've got to get on Google. Google's the wave of the future. Let's get on a G-Chat, guys."
And caveat, it wouldn't be a big problem if he would just get the Facebook app on his phone.
Right.
It wouldn't be a big problem if we didn't have to communicate with stupid pictures of ugly boys and memes, and we communicate like people and use text.
We do post a lot of pictures of Chris.
Okay.
So,
Glad I said boy.
yes, because you, sir, are not yet a
boy.
man. So it took an ugly turn this week when, like, he just started. He made it his mission a couple weeks ago, and just started badgering us. Like, I'm inviting you to this thing. You need to join. Chris, get on there. I don't ever use Google Chat. I haven't used a chat system other than Facebook in probably 5 years. Because that's so 1999.
I think I'll put up a poll that says this is a millennial generation podcast. We want to vote out some old geezers and put in some new guys.
I don't understand how.
I don't think Google Chat's used by young people more than Facebook Chat.
Right. I think it's used by old nerds like
you
yourself.
just said you haven't used a different chat system in 5 years. That's when I was like in high school.
What do you use? Snapchat, you young whippersnapper?
I've used plenty of different chat systems since high school.
Sending naughty pictures to each other with your Snapchat?
Like what?
You didn't use
AIM?
Yeah.
AIM was the
Yahoo
big one.
chat was
Yahoo?
amazing.
Mhm.
Yahoo was the first really good one.
MSN chat.
Yeah. I
It's
never
all
used
the
an
same
MSN
thing.
chat.
You
I never
send
used an
text
MSN
to
chat.
each other.
Right. Exactly. But
It is the same thing.
Gault has this. I'm going to save that. Gault has this thing where if the text messaging function is not wrapped in a Google frame, he will not use it. We're watching the Pacer game, and the Pacemates just came on, and I lost everyone's attention in the room.
Those are the best uniforms I've ever seen in my life.
And if you skip
T-shirt.
It was just a T-shirt.
If you skip back about 30 seconds, you'll hear me struggling. So he starts badgering us. We join this chat, and we just discover that it's a substandard product. It's not as good as Facebook. Period.
No,
it just
you
isn't as
you
good.
had that predetermination before going
No,
in there.
I did not. Because
I'm
I
talking
tried
about
to.
Spangle
I
here.
tried to help you out,
You
man.
did.
And it just wasn't working, man.
It wasn't
it's not
working
as good.
only because you couldn't.
Yes, we
you
need
ha-
to
you
send
ha-
pictures.
You can't send pictures with a link.
The majority of we'll get to that.
No, I'm not
Hold on,
gonna-
hold on. The majority of the people that I talk with are via email or Facebook Messenger, so it is more convenient for me to have y'all in one little box, the Facebook box.
You
but
just
I was
said you
I
use
was
email.
but I was
Why
willing.
can't you have the email and the chat? On
I
the
was
same
willing
page?
to give Google Chat a try, but then I realized I couldn't post my funny pictures in the chat. Period.
You can.
No, you can't.
You use a link. From
You're not-
Imager.
I'm not going to be on my mobile phone
Okay,
and then go to
can
Imager
I ask you
and
something
load
else?
something up. You're
How do-
being
how do you-
irrational.
How do you post a picture and a comment on Facebook?
You go.
How do you post a picture in a comment on Facebook?
You use
you go to
Imager.
Imager,
Right, but that's
and
not
you
what
do
we're
the
talking
exact same
about.
thing.
We're not talking about
but
that.
you'll
We're not
do
ta-
it for a comment, but not for your own chat.
We're not because
Yeah.
we don't need to do it with our own
no,
chat. We can just upload it.
You don't complain to Facebook about
Because
it.
there is
you
something-
don't complain to Facebook about how you can't put pictures in comments.
I don't need
but
to.
You complain to
You
Google
can- you
about not
can.
being able to put it in their chat.
No.
you have
all
different
things.
levels.
Can you do that
No.
on? Can you do that on
You're
Google
comparing
Plus?
Google. You're comparing Facebook
No,
comments
I'm
to
comparing
Google Chat.
how
You're-
you are.
No.
You guys are overly critical of Google products, but not overly critical of Facebook.
No, because you're making an
Facebook
you're
has so
making
many
an
things that need improved.
You're making an improper comparison. Facebook comments are not the same as Facebook chat. You can't compare Facebook comments to Google Chat. You compare Facebook chat to Google Chat.
Facebook comments are a supplementary product. For Facebook chat, the meme is the main thing. It is the primary instigator of most of our
And
conversations.
even in Facebook comments, if you post a link, it shows the picture.
I wasn't comparing.
Google Chat, you don't.
But
Wasn't
we're
comparing
talking
Facebook
about
Facebook
a chat,
comments
okay?
to chat.
And we have one system
comparing your guys'
that will allow us to meet our needs that we all have used for months now without any issues.
How many? No issues. How many times have I not gotten a memo?
Because you
Because
don't get
that's
the
because-
No, I get on. I get on
app.
Facebook every day.
That's
and I
because-
get on, and there's it says 99 plus.
I deal
and
with-
I have to scroll up for days to find the
It's your
beginning of
own
the
damn
conversation,
fault for not
and then
getting the
read the
Facebook
whole
app.
thing to catch what you guys said.
It's because
No.
we use these
Google,
too.
I could say, oh,
use
you guys
these
said the
too.
meeting. I could just search meeting time. Oh, there you go. It's
You
4
can do
o'clock.
that in
No.
the Facebook chat.
Yeah.
You
All
can
right.
search.
I have
right.
to break. I
Does
have
Facebook run a search engine?
Yeah,
They do
Yeah.
actually. They're
ju-
social search.
They just released that they're going to even
my
make it
God.
more fancy.
It is going to replace Google if you want. That was a really strong argument, Creighton.
What else?
Listen, sir. They're going to get fancy, and they're not going to stop until they're fabulous.
What else?
What's so funny is he just used the word fancy, and he has on a black and red flannel shirt with pearl snap buttons and a Bass Pro Shop hat.
What else?
And you're so fancy.
Hey,
Get her done.
Time out. I did not say it like that. But two, what am I supposed to say? What would be the more appropriate?
It has a higher level of utility.
All right, I want to interject with something Maya just said. So when Ann Coulter called us all a bunch of nerds and pussies, this is what she was talking about. A redneck wannabe mother effer chewing while arguing with a fat stoner about Google+. I don't know if he was talking about you or me over here in the tie-dye t-shirt.
Well, he can't see me, so he must be talking about you.
Yeah, so this escalates, and Gault just gets into it. And so we finally, just in the Google chat, say, listen, the Google Messenger is not going to work. It's an inferior product. We're going to stick with what we're using, period.
We did kind of tease him, though. We gave it a chance.
We gave it a chance. We gave it a chance, and it didn't work. I was seriously testing it out. And so Creighton just finally says...
You were seriously testing it out.
Creighton,
I had to pull your leg for an hour and a half.
I was against it, but then Creighton... I knew I had won when Creighton goes, listen, this is just not going to work. And I was like, yeah. And then you go, F you. And you leave the chat, and I'm sitting here, and I lose it. And then you go into the Facebook chat and you lose it again, and then you leave the conversation, and then the memes start.
And delete Facebook.
Did you delete Facebook?
I wanted to.
Yeah. Then
I didn't come here expecting to win.
Poor sweet Maya. Maya says something, and then you unfriend her.
Whoa. Says something?
Yeah, just being innocent and
no, there's a difference between saying something and being a troll.
Joking with you. And just being funny and thoughtful.
Oh, I know. I might add her back. I need a written apology in my email.
Creighton writes.
That's a Google mail, by the way.
Gmail.
Your infatuation with Google has sort of become like a joke on the show, just an inside joke, between us and the listeners. But
I like other things.
But you're like seriously, you're like taking it personally.
I've had a Windows computer my whole life.
But you're taking it personally.
No, but
man.
you like other things, but you compare everything to the standard that is Google,
because they've set a high bar
on
almost all of their products.
Yeah,
nothing
like
can
Wave
compare to some of their products.
Google Plus Sparks.
I said nothing can compare to some of their products.
Like all of them
like
that exist.
Gmail, like Maps, like Search, like Plus.
I will argue with you on Maps because I've gotten lost on Maps twice.
All you want. Go to Bing Maps then, and you'll have a great time.
What did you see my photos from Washington D.C.?
Bing Maps looks beautiful.
I was in Washington D.C. I was a block from the White House. Google Maps couldn't find me, but Apple Maps did.
Yeah, it couldn't find you on an iPhone. At least you can have Google Maps. I can't have Apple Maps on my Google phone.
But see, listeners, he's
no one
getting
wants Apple
angry.
Maps, though.
I know that, but he's over here defending it because
what is the All right, hold on. You stop. Creighton, Greg, what is the psychology of somebody who takes a product and internalizes it to the point where it makes them physically angry if you say a bad thing about it?
I believe that.
Put your headphones back on,
I'm
Gault.
fairly certain the scientific term, the standard psychological term that they use is called fanboy.
Yeah.
He's like...
But Apple fanboys aren't this bad.
He's like Glenn Close in that movie where
Fatal Attraction.
Fatal Attraction,
yeah. But he's... okay, Google makes some great products, but they fail a lot.
Many great products.
They fail a lot. Google Wave, it was supposed to replace email, dead after like 4 months. Google Buzz, the Twitter clone, oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Well, first, I've never said Google couldn't fail. They're not immaculate. The Google Glass that comes out at the end of the year, it might flop. I know I'm getting one, but I don't know about you guys if you guys want to live in the 90s or live in the future.
What does that even mean?
I want to live in the future.
You want to live in the future.
Okay, I want to live in the present. That the present is the future.
Really, I just find it disturbing that you find a product so attractive that you're willing to physically fight people if they
I've
even
never
have
physically fought someone over Google.
Over Google.
It would
I've
happen.
never.
It
over
would
Google.
happen.
It
though.
would happen.
No, it wouldn't.
If
It
I
would
pushed
totally
you,
happen.
if I pushed you enough, then you would fight me.
You totally
over
would.
Google. You would.
I don't think I would.
You totally would, dude.
But we don't live in a world of what ifs. We live in a world of possibilities. Okay, you always use the Google Wave sucked. Google Waves. But Google Wave was actually a good product and led to Google Plus. Many of the features they took from Google Wave to make Google Plus, and Google Plus is exploding.
Google
it's
Plus
amazing.
is not.
We need a We Are Libertarians baby, because if we had that, it would be shared all over Facebook. Facebook has turned, I mean, I'll admit it, Facebook has turned into, from hot chicks on spring break to pictures of babies
And Frederick Bastiat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our age, though, because everybody that we used to see on spring break, we're like, guess what? Spring break's over. I know what I'm doing the next 2 weeks. I'm getting on Facebook. And then now it's like, crap.
Oh, my God.
Diane had another baby.
Oh,
I don't want to.
guess what? She's divorced and going back to school.
Hey, by the way, somebody go grab Mittens. We need to put Mittens in the podcast here.
Look at
Mittens, come here. We need an official We Are Libertarians cat, because I'm not.
That's like stoned cat.
I'm not having a baby anytime soon.
Sleeping, standing up cat.
All right. Well, we really just don't feel like doing the show.
I mean, I have some actual stuff, like politics stuff to talk about. But,
Got a picture of that cat.
But we can talk. I mean, you didn't really talk about
This is a
ISFLC
political
yet.
podcast. Talk about International Students for Liberty Conference.
You haven't really talked about
Okay,
it.
ask me questions.
Well, Creighton and I went last year, so we know the gist of it. But tell other people what it was like.
So the International Students for Liberty Conference is an international gathering of students, libertarian-leaning students. I wouldn't say all of them are libertarian, but it's sort of a version of it's like a libertarian CPAC.
It's the nerd libertarian.
It's sort of it's more philosophically focused than a Young Americans for Liberty. We've mentioned this before, but there's two main libertarian student groups, small L libertarian student groups. There's the Young Americans for Liberty, of which this podcast is not affiliated.
Not affiliated at
Creighton.
all.
And Creighton is a regional director for YAL. And they're more activist focused. They have YALPAC, which goes out and supports candidates with activism. And they really try to get students to engage in the political process. Students for Liberty is it's more philosophically focused. It's more of a debate club. You know, the majority of the, from what I could tell, it was, I don't even know what some of them were, but what are some of the workshops you've attended in the past?
The way I've kind of noticed it is Students for Liberty tends to be more, honestly, they strike me more as left-ish kind of libertarians, but definitely more objectivist.
It seemed more like the people who wear tweed jackets as opposed to people who
they
go
are
out in
kind of
November
more. They're a little
canvass.
more hipster. I'll say that.
Maybe.
They're
I think it's a little
hipster.
more diverse than you think, though.
I know the perfect way to describe it. The first thing I saw when I pulled up was a guy with a giant mohawk talking to a kid with a bow tie and a pipe.
How many bow ties did you see?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know, right?
If a bomb had hit that hotel, the bow tie per capita of the world would have gone down by 25%.
Wait, a guy in a bow tie with a pipe, did he have a big beard?
There were a few beards.
No, but was the one that you...
No.
Because I think I know who you're talking about.
So, nothing against it. It was certainly, it was interesting to see so many students engaged, and the male-to-female ratio, we've talked about the male-to-female ratio a few times, it was definitely 50-50. I would say there was probably 50% females, 50% males, which was surprising. So you go to libertarian events, and I think people have a perception.
Why do you think 50% of those males go?
Yeah, there was.
No, that's totally true.
Ladies of Liberty, Lola, you may have seen that, an organization that promotes libertarianism to females and try to get females active in the movement. What are some of the workshops that you guys have attended in the past?
Well, last year when I went, I attended all the YAL breakouts, but there's also the way the SFL conferences work is every hour they have various breakout sessions which you can attend that are put on by various different sponsors. So I remember they had the Seasteading Institute there last year. I don't know if they were back this year, but
they were.
Yeah, so you can go to all these things. So the ones that usually get attended the most are like, what kind of libertarian are you? Or, the Austrian economics of the Depression. And, the nerdy ones that the reason we all go, because we're all a bunch of nerds. But then periodically they have the big ones that are put on by SFL, which are usually the speakers. I know last year Peter Thiel's was like huge. But the main overall like feel I always get from SFL related things is that it's way more ideas heavy, you know? Like it's kind of like if you got a guy that's thinking about that he may be a libertarian and you want to try and convince him a little bit more, you send him to an SFL conference because he's going to get bombarded with, you know, philosophy. Whereas like the YAL things I've gone to, up in Michigan back in 2010, I helped out with Amash's campaign up in Michigan, and the YAL trainings they put on were political trainings. You know, they were how to do campaign stuff, how to do messaging for a campaign. All of it was specific for campaign. And then, you know, at the end of the day, you got to be like, hey, so you can go help out with a candidate, and there's this guy right around the corner who's pretty good. His name's Amash, but you can choose who you want. And, of course, everybody chose Amash. But, you know, and we went and helped out and actually did stuff. And that's how a lot, I mean, even the National Convention for Young Americans for Liberty, I mean, the first day is usually, you know, campus activism, like how to build your group and how to make it a strong group and be effective on campus. And then the rest of it's, you know, how to message, you know, the 4 boxes, the Leesburg grid, and how to raise money for a campaign. You know, it's all campaign heavy. You're not going to see that at an SFL conference. They're not necessarily worried about the political process.
There's different goals. It's different goals. Students for Liberty is about socializing, about meeting other libertarians.
I mean, yeah, it is
about expanding your perspective.
It is a network-based organization. Yeah. So Young Americans for Liberty is broken down through chapters. They have chapters on campuses throughout the country. SFL doesn't have chapters. What they do is they try and connect Liberty groups with each other, and they have campus coordinators, which are just basically the equivalent of a state chair for Young Americans for Liberty, where they go and they try and help Liberty groups grow, whereas YAL actually has the chapters. So SFL is even its, you know, its description. Its organization is dependent upon just better networking amongst Liberty groups.
And all the vendors, I was there with Advocates for Self-Government. There was FEE, which is Foundation for Economic Education.
Yep.
There's FFF, Future Freedom Foundation.
FF's good, FEE good.
Cato, FreedomWorks was there.
Freedom, I mean, they're everyone you've ever heard of.
Yeah, every big libertarian organization.
Was Mises there at all?
Whoa, Mises was not there.
I see.
Yeah, I know. There are a couple groups that would like to be libertarian groups, but they're really more conservative groups when they show up.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what I was wowing.
So
you're calling FreedomWorks libertarian?
Hey, FreedomWorks.
You know what?
FreedomWorks leans way more libertarian than you think.
I'm not fighting them.
I personally know someone who was fired from FreedomWorks because they were a neocon, and the staff just couldn't take them anymore because they're all very libertarian. Julie Borkowski works there, the token libertarian girl. Austin Peterson, he worked for the LP as volunteer coordinator. He works at FreedomWorks.
It doesn't matter who works there. It matters where their money goes. Richard Murdoch's not a libertarian.
That's true. You're right. So, you know, that's something that we might discuss on a future podcast is the future of the libertarian movement, because I am gravely concerned.
I said something to them about it, and their response to me was that their PAC money is not part of their organization.
Right.
So their organization's libertarian, but their money's not.
Right. And I think you see that a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, people want to direct that money to the people who give the money want to buy influence.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Well, I mean, let's also face it. I mean, a lot of the reason that Richard Murdoch was pushed was because they wanted to get Lugar out of there, and he was the best option to get Lugar out of there. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that Richard Murdoch is a good libertarian or anything, but at the same time, a lot of this, you know, push on, if you're going to, I mean, quote, quote, Tea Party push was to get, you know, entrenched, you know, old school Republicans out of there in primary battles.
But you know what? Dick Lugar and Richard Murdoch, from a libertarian perspective, who cares?
Well,
you know, what's the
economics? You're going to side with Richard Murdoch.
I think the point was that Lugar voted for TARP. Let's not forget that, and let's get him out of there because of it.
He's a deal maker. He's always, you know, he's been in there
I mean,
forever.
he's been the guy that's been saying, oh, all this would be better if the Republicans would just sound more like Democrats and compromise more and do more stuff to make them sound like Democrats.
Yeah.
Oh, this bad. These people arguing with each other in Washington. Rah, rah, rah. How dare you believe in something?
It's hilarious how people say they want bipartisanship when what they actually want is ideological purity,
Right.
especially in primaries.
Yeah.
It's never more true than...
I had a discussion today with somebody about our current situation with sequestration, and this person described it as sequestration as a bad idea whose time has come. And the reason that it has to come is because our system is broken. And I contend that our system is broken in a lot of ways because of primaries, because it pushes people to the extremes of the Democrat and the Republican ideology, as opposed to somewhere in the middle, which is where I would put a lot of libertarian thinking a lot of times.
I think
Yeah.
I think if you describe the opposite extremes in the same sense that,
I think if you asked most average Americans things like, do you care if gays get married? Most would side with us. Do you want us bombing foreign countries? No.
But I think gerrymandering drives the primaries more than the primaries driving anything else. Like, they have set up their districts, so they're going to get the ideological candidate now. I mean,
Right.
it couldn't be any more well set
And I
up.
don't remember if I made my point or not. It's one of those shows. But that's the point. It pushes to the left, to the right, and
But primary is the outcome of gerrymandering. It's not necessarily the primary that's driving that partisanship.
I think it is to an extent in the Republican Party, at least, because there is this infighting amongst various factions over the soul of the party right now.
Yeah.
And it was totally present in 2012. It was present in 2010. In 2010, the more, I say quote quote Tea Party again, was a little bit more pronounced, and in 2012 it wasn't, but it was still a huge fight. I mean, primaries do bring that out, but I think what Spangle's trying to say is that it pushes people to the right or the left. I think what it can do is it tries to push it. Ideological purity is okay to an extent if the ideology is okay. I think the reason that I don't necessarily like what the primaries did in 2012 was because the social conservatives still had such a huge voice, and pushing them to ideological purity meant pushing them towards social issues and making them vocal on it. And I think other than within the hardcore Republican base, social issues are a losing proposition in the future. And I would have been happier if they would have said, instead of that, let's focus on, free market issues or, the growth of government.
That's
issues.
the hard part, though. If you're a Republican that comes out and you're great on economics, but then you say, I support gay marriage, I'm pro-choice, then your candidate in the primaries, just in those local areas,
Right.
he's a moderate rhino, even though he may be fantastic on economics.
I know, and I think it comes down to just like
That's how Murdoch wins.
I think it's just a generational gap. I honestly just see it as just a huge generational gap.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, once we get older, assuming that we, our ideas don't change dramatically, once we get older, I mean, no one's going to care about gay marriage. No one's going to give a crap. Now it's such a big issue amongst base Republican, groups. But when we get older, no one's going to care.
No, but that assumes you guys, the Libertarian Party, I mean, if you don't join the Republican Party or you don't become the dominant party, then the Republican Party is just over and done. Like, it is over.
The next generation is much more socially liberal, and I think the Republican Party within it has this internal struggle that we do want to move more socially liberal. We have to view more of take a more libertarian stance on things like immigration. And I think a lot of the guys and gals our age are more libertarian, with the exception of maybe things like war issues. A lot of times that's sort of the sticking point. They're cool on gay marriage, but they really like drones bombing 16-year-olds in Yemen.
Have you seen, like, what's the Go Proud?
Go Proud.
They are so war hawkish, man.
Right.
They're a Republican pack.
Go Proud's the homosexual
But see,
okay.
But see, Chris Barron, one of the founders of Go Proud, self-describes as a libertarian and supported Gary Johnson up until like a month before the election. So I think the Republican Party has a choice, and we've always said this. We'd vote for Republicans if you were actually libertarians, but you aren't, so we want a third choice.
You'll never get complete libertarian ideals in the Republican Party because they're not so anti-government they don't believe it has its uses.
Right.
That's going to be the big sticking point. So I don't know who's going to budge. I don't know if you guys.
Well, the thing is, I would like it to just go back to like Robert Taft style conservatism. I mean, Robert Taft and Howard Buffett and all these guys they have been Republicans. Those were the definition of conservative back in the day. And, I mean, they were pretty good. I mean, they weren't outspoken on social issues, I guess, because that wasn't necessarily a big issue back then to a large extent. But for the most part, they were.
I would really love.
They were palatable.
I would really love the Old Spice guy to ride in on a unicorn and deliver me a pizza and some Reese's Pieces, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But it's funny. JFK would be a great Republican candidate right now. A tax-cutting Democrat, great on social issues. I mean, he would be a dream candidate in my opinion, for the Republican Party.
I get your sarcasm, Spangle, but I'm saying that the Republican Party has an actual history of something that is at least palatable. Democrat, its palatable history was like 200 years ago, but the palatable history of the Republican Party is just post New Deal, the New Deal post World War II Republicans up until like Nixon.
Yeah, and he might as well have been a Democrat.
Yeah, so I mean, it's there. Those people that were in with that they're alive. I just think over time, kind of dumb issues have taken over and they just run on that crap. I mean,
right.
I don't know. There may have been a time where you could be a Republican and you could win on social issues, but it's gone and they don't want to let go of it.
Well, no, that's where the money is. That's where they can fundraise.
If you're in a room where you're raising money, it's full of 75-year-old women in funny hats with buttons, and they want to hear. My grandma's one of these people. She's 75, 76. She wants to hear that you're a good conservative who wants to keep the gays from loving each other.
You go to church on Sunday.
You go to church on Sunday. She doesn't, but she wants to make sure her politician goes to church on Sunday. It's really what it comes down to.
That is.
We touched on sequestration. Greg, I know you know what sequestration is.
Essentially, it was what they did to extend the debt ceiling back in November. Was that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, in November. And it's forced cuts against a multitude of programs, but some of them aren't real cuts. Like, did you look at the forecast of what it's going to actually do to spending?
In the aggregate, none of it's cuts. It's like we were talking about a few weeks ago. It's just baseline budgeting. It decreases the rate of increase.
And the amount it decreases it is negligible.
Yeah,
it's hardly anything at all.
It will, in 30 years, the amount of spending will have gone up by like X 0.7 whatever trillion or something, and with the sequestration cuts it'll go up by X 0.6.
Yeah,
I mean it's like $10 billion over 30 years or something. And Obama's going out there saying that if these things happen, granted, just remember, they're not cutting actual spending. They're not reducing the level of spending next year below what it is this year. They're reducing it below what they projected it to be. Like they wanted to increase it by X. They're going to increase it by X minus 1 now instead. It's still going to be more than what it is now. But he's going out there saying that if this happens, firefighters won't be able to go and put your house out of fire. The Defense Department's going to lay off 800,000 people, and
terrorists
are going to take over. Cats and dogs are going to live together, and it's just like it's so crazy. And the thing is obviously this stuff isn't going to happen if these cuts go through. The worst that's going to happen is people aren't going to get raises. I mean, they're not going to lay off 800,000 Pentagon workers. They're going to if they had to lay off anybody, it isn't going to be from the Pentagon.
And what they'll do is they'll do furloughs.
Yep.
So you'll work. You work 51 weeks out of the year. You'll now work 49.
Yep.
And what is so
we'll be like Europe.
What's so infuriating about it all is that they were touching on the idea of cutting Congress's pay.
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi said, "Don't
Demean.
Don't demean the dignity of this office by cutting my pay.
Freaking Skeletor.
I know, man. God, that just like if the only reason. Oh my God, I wish San
and
Francisco.
she's worth like $35 million.
I wish San Francisco would just break off from California and go into the ocean and be its own country, because the only reason she's in office right now is because San Francisco has just lost it.
They're crazy.
They've just lost it. She would. I mean, I don't even think she could make it in like New York or something. The only place she could make it is San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you're up here saying. I mean, there's people out there right now that they have to cut their budgets in their household because they aren't getting a huge income from a economic situation that you guys have really created by being so meddlesome, and you can't even take a small cut to your pay as a congresswoman, and you're already worth more than like 90% of Americans.
Oh, like 99.
99% of Americans make less than you. You can't take a cut because it reduces the dignity. They weren't even paid for a while. They didn't even pay statesmen.
Nope.
I mean, give me a break.
It does two things that are interesting. One, it illustrates how badly we're screwed. When they can do a sequestration, an automatic cuts, and it doesn't make any difference at all in our debt situation down the line. And then two, it shows the politics of it. The president doesn't want the economy to slow down at all.
And this was his idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he supported it.
This was his idea.
He said he'd veto any legislation that came to his desk that tried to overturn it.
Right.
Yes.
The majority of its future cuts, and it will mean furloughs, essentially.
They're not cuts, though. I honestly think we should stop using the word cuts.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on
because
now.
they're not cuts.
Keep in mind, I'm reading this from PolitiFact. Keep in mind, though, that many government services were exempted from the sequester. Yep. Tax returns will still go out. Mm-hmm. Seniors won't lose their Medicare benefits. Veterans' benefits and military pay will not be affected.
Yeah, do we honestly think that the people in Washington are going to be so dumb to think that they could include Medicare into this?
No.
Right.
There's no way that this would have happened.
The biggest complaint from left-leaning organizations is that meat inspectors will have to go on furlough, and it's going to endanger our meat supply.
They're just grasping for something to make an issue out of this.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Republicans have finally just been like, you know what, screw it. Let it happen.
Yep.
Rand Paul's out there's like, let it happen.
It's irrelevant. Now, it probably will cut economic growth in the next year.
It'll cut GDP growth.
Yeah.
Because GDP includes government expenses within its numbers. But that doesn't mean it's going to reduce economic health.
So that's why it's bad for the president. And he has an ambitious agenda that he wants to do. And right now his approval rating, I believe, is at 54%. Mm-hmm. It's very high. So if the economy gets bad, it goes back below 45, and he's looking at 4 years of nothing.
Well, I think if we have another negative GDP growth, we're in a recession again.
Yep, we are.
So if we have another quarter of negative GDP, or I guess negative growth in GDP, then yeah, we're in a recession again.
Yep, and he'll come out and he'll use the John Keynes line. He'll say, oh, well, when the facts change, my opinion changes, to try to defend himself.
Well, and that we need to start looking at another stimulus package.
And it's funny because, the 2 or 3 years ago, a year ago, if the GDP went negative, I mean, there would have been people rioting in the streets in D.C. about how terrible this was. But we had a quarter of negative net GDP, and they're like, oh, well, it's just because of this, and it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. And I mean, it's insane. I just want it to happen. I just want it to happen.
Do you have a point? No. Let's go back to Students for Liberty. I want to ask you guys, you've been to a million of these, you work with college students. What are some of the things that give you hope about the future in the coming years? Mine was that there are so many, just the fact that there are so many kids who are interested in learning philosophy. Like you hear so often, oh, kids these days, they just want to watch their little iPods and they don't give about anything. It's like, these kids are so much more educated about economics and about philosophy than I ever was. And I don't think that they are a minority within the libertarian movement. I think they're a majority. Look at our heroes. It's Hayek. It's people with patches on their elbows. It's professors. So I think one of the bright spots for me is that it's a well-educated group of kids who are politically active in some way, even if for Students for Liberty it's mostly just philosophical discussions. What are some of
Well,
the things that you guys see about
For me,
our own generation?
I only see growth and liberty in younger people. I guess when I started, I was like the only person I knew in high school that liked Ron Paul or even knew who he was. And I mean, I didn't even know Creighton knew about liberty till college.
Right.
So, well, when I started, Matt and I started the Yow group. It was 3 of us. And
Right.
Then Creighton came. Then he was our 4th, and then. When I left, I don't know about right now, but when I left, there were 20. I'm sure there are plenty of new people now, all
And-
kinds of new people that just come in and have a desire to grow it. And
IUPY has one of the more active. It's an award-winning YL group.
Yeah,
It is award-winning.
and that didn't happen when you were there. When you were in college, there was no such thing as a libertarian organization.
No, there wasn't. When I was on campus at IUPY, because I went to the same college these guys did about 6, 7, 8 years before they did, I was active in 2004. We were the only. I was a college Republican then. We were the only active political group, and we were lucky to get 8 people to a meeting. And there was no college Democrats. The word libertarian was never even mentioned. We never even had heard of I hadn't heard of the word libertarian except maybe a couple times on Neil boards.
Yeah, and now when you walk into the Office of Student Involvement at IUPUI, there are 2 things they know: there are fraternities and there's YL.
Right.
And student government, and that's what it is.
There is no
It's
college
YAL.
Republicans or college Democrats there anymore.
If you want advice from a student organization, you go to Young Americans for Liberty.
Yeah, we are.
It's the model student org.
We are really the only active political organization on campus. I mean, Democracy Plaza, but they're not necessarily political because they don't take sides. They're more, I guess, idea talking about stuff. But yeah, we're the only active political organization on campus. I'd say what gives me hope is, or what I enjoy most about it is that it's pretty much the same thing. Is that people are so ready to embrace things that are just so, nerdy.
And the other thing that I love about the students that I'm lucky to be around these days is that students are not allowed to go out and walk neighborhoods and canvass and do activist work. A lot of the older generations of libertarians, maybe it's just because of age and kids and greater responsibility, and it may just be an age thing, but there's a desire to fundraise. There's a desire to go out and walk neighborhoods.
Yeah, honestly, one of the things that I've noticed, there's a lot of chapters in my network that are being run by people with full-time jobs that have children, and they're in their late 20s, they're in their 30s. I mean, it's grown beyond just young people, this organization. It is literally getting to the point where, moms or dads who go to school are trying to start chapters, and they're doing good at it. I mean,
doing well.
Thank you. That's how I learn. They're doing well.
Correct me all the time on Facebook, Chad. It's about time you get corrected.
I know, and it's still fun every time I do it. I see it as I don't know. I think what kind of gives me more hope than anything is that now that Ron Paul's done, that he is sitting back and he's doing more talking circuits, but he's not necessarily in the national spotlight in the same sense as he was. And I don't really recognize anything slowing down. It's like he was to a lot of people, that was the reason that they got involved. And now that he isn't necessarily, leading it directly anymore, he's still, or people are still as active, and it's still growing. And that's something that I think's great, because it kind of shows that it isn't just kind of like this cult of personality fluke. It is legitimate people who care.
Although you can't go to a single libertarian website right now without Rand Paul being slathered over.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is it's still changed. It's still going. I think there's plenty of them that, I get on it all the time. There's plenty of them that like Gary Johnson over Rand Paul. But they're still they're still getting involved on campuses and doing things.
And everybody kind of, I'm a Gary Johnson person, you're probably a Rand Paul person, but the fact is that everybody kind of works together, and I hope that continues to move forward. I mean, we are in the Libertarian Party world with Gary Johnson doing several tours. We're starting to see student groups less interested in hearing from the Libertarian Party and Gary Johnson, and more, like it's sort of closing off a little bit, which may just be partly the time of the year or what, but it's sort of like, all right, let's.
I tell you what I've noticed is that, you can honestly tell when you're around these people a lot that, there is a strong desire to not just be right. I think a big thing that people get caught up in is just being right. There is an actual strong desire for people that I've experienced to actually want to, in the future, affect real change. They're like, it's like we've gotten over the honeymoon of, converting to these ideas and just being thrown into this whole world that is, politics and liberty philosophy, and it's been honed into the point where I was like, now let's use it to actually affect change. And a lot of people have made that shift, and they're on board with it. They're like, yes, let's do this. Whereas I think in the past, especially with organizations like the Mises Institute or these very scholarly organizations, it's always been about, well, let's be right. And which is a dangerous shift, and it's something that I worry about, and I've talked about it before. Do we have to redefine, or do libertarians have to find another word for libertarian in a generation? Because so many of the current libertarians morphed into something that isn't libertarian, or the libertarians who are active right now haven't lost their meaning, but the people who aren't libertarians say, oh, well, I'm a libertarian, I want to adopt that because it's cool. And it waters itself down, and I think that's something that, how do we hold on to principle while at the same time trying to gain power? Because that's the constant battle for libertarians, is you're moving with the flow of power, but at the same time you are dealing with the realities of trying to stick to your principles.
Exactly. Like when Creighton says get involved, they want to get involved. That doesn't really mean sit around in a book club. Not that that's a bad thing to sit around in a book club, but like they literally want to get involved. Like at IUPUI right now, we've started a petition to carry on campus. If you have a license to carry a handgun, you can carry. The petition is so you can allow you to carry a handgun on campus. They're going to take that to the student government when it has enough signatures, which would then go to the chancellors, which will probably deny it. But then the next step is to take it to the State House, who has a bill. They have a bill in the State House. Mm-hmm. So those kinds of things will actually affect change. And that's what he means by get involved. They're actually taking it's activism.
Yeah, and I'm a firm
activism. In the last 2 weeks, there have been 2 robberies at gunpoint on campus.
There was, while we were sitting here, there was another pizza delivery guy just got robbed.
The email about the 2 robberies.
Yeah,
White River.
YL has a message there. The libertarians on campus have a message there.
The thing I think Spangle was kind of alluding to, or he may have not have been, I just heard it. Big separation, I think, has been like there's been these groups of people who are libertarian, and they're like, well, we need to make sure we're on the same page before we try and move forward. And then there are people who's like, well, we'll move forward and people will get on the same page at the same time. And they've always fought with each other, and I think it's still a big problem that we have to face. People just saying, well, because you're not the same kind of libertarian I am, I don't want to associate with you, and I don't want to help you out at all, even though,
there are still people
there's still that. But it's not necessarily as prominent. It's not necessarily as powerful. I think there's a lot of people being like, all right, well, we've had our fun being in our book clubs, deciphering the Austrian method versus the neoclassical method. We've got that. Now, let's move forward and say, I'm sick of having this nanny state over top of me. I'm sick of having my money taken from me every paycheck. Let's actually try and get to a point where we can go and actually do stuff. And that's what I see that inspires me, is that there are these people that you can see it in their eyes. They're ready to go out there and actually do stuff. I mean, I go down anytime I go to DC, people go to these trainings or something. There's people coming from they intern with Thomas Massey or something, and they're coming and they started out in this organization. I mean, they're at the same time as there is education and giving you the ideas of honing in your philosophy of liberty and honing in your ability to actually do things within a campaign network. At the same time, they're giving you opportunities to move forward and become in a place where you can make better change.
Education is incredibly important, but I personally believe that the best way to educate people is through the political process, is to go out and campaign and engage people through the campaign, to go out, knock on people's doors, talk to them directly, answer their questions, give them the libertarian vision, and people will be educated. I almost said executed. People will be educated by.
If we don't do this,
if you don't do this, I'm not going to violate the NAP, but I will kill you.
I won't. But someone will.
Deploying traditional political science methods, you educate more people than if you have a symposium. And a lot of times libertarians in the past have had a lot of seminars and symposiums, and there are places for that because those people keep the light on at home, so we can always look back and say, this is what we started with, this is what we believe, this is where we're grounded, and that's why that philosophical stuff is so important, to keep us grounded, to continually keep yourself fed. But at the same time, I think education is not usually done best by white papers or lectures. It's done by going out and knocking on a door and talking to people about their lives directly and how libertarians can impact that in a positive way.
I think it's going to be a combination of two things for the Libertarian Party to really take off. I think it's going to be similar to like over in England, the last prime minister election they had. Like the Liberal Democrats over there are the third party. They're the smallest party in like in the major parties.
You mean like our kind of liberal or their kind of liberal?
They're kind of liberal Democrats. So they're to the left of American Democrats,
right?
But they were a fringe party, and they started to grow. They started to get support, and then Nick Clegg came along. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys remember the debate between Nick Clegg, David Cameron, and then Gordon Brown.
Yeah,
I live in America, so no.
Well, it was.
I'm American. I'm wearing a Bass Pro Shop hat. I got a plaid shirt on. No,
it was huge because they really take the position that's in between the English conservatives and then the English hard left, the Labour Party. They're right in the middle. They make the most sense. And Nick Clegg was their shining horse that came in and got them influence in Parliament. And he was able to build a coalition with David Cameron. And so now they're a growing, functioning party.
Yeah.
And I think Justin Amash is that guy for your party.
You need somebody who, and we had the GOP versus LP debate last week. And you know what the fact is that if you choose to run within the Republican Party and affect change from within, cool. Because you know what? Part of the goal of a third party is to influence the debate and move parties left or right, or in our case, up the diamond. And in the Libertarian Party case, you know what? You lose your primary. You don't get to spend the summer canvassing and doing what I just outlined. So it's important to have both. What the Libertarian movement needs is somebody who is charismatic or who can connect with people on a real,
personal
level, an emotional level, and we've been missing that a lot. I mean, God love Ron Paul, but Ron Paul is,
a terrible candidate.
Ron Paul gained power because he wasn't the best speaker, because he didn't, present his ideas well. It's because people got off their butt and did something for him, but he didn't really connect with a lot of voters. He connected with
young people because he was honest.
Yeah, I think he connected with people because of his honesty and because those people were inclined to libertarianism already, and he spoke to something within them.
I wasn't.
I think there's.
You were inclined to beer and chicks. Right?
I know. I started off being a neocon. I mean, I was back then. I first started getting worrying about politics at all. I was like Bush all the way. I mean,
yeah.
But Bush had a great brand. Compassionate conservatism.
It wasn't that. I was just neocon.
Yeah.
But his brand was like, that's what I think. One of the things in the Libertarian Party is how can you it lacks empathy in its message. Mm-hmm. So how can you say we are empathetic by doing nothing? Until you can figure out a way to say, like Bush did, we're compassionate conservatism.
Rupert was a huge part of that. And from my perspective, as somebody who was a leader in the party, Rupert was a guy who would connect with regular people, the 70% of people who didn't vote. He would go on to these debates, and he wasn't even great in the debates. I mean, I'll admit it. But when you saw him one-on-one connecting with people out at the state fair or the county fairs, there's nobody like him. He connects with people. He will wrap his arms around you and he will say, "I'm sorry to hear that. It's going to be okay." He was the type of candidate that we haven't had in a long time, and there is a lot of friction between candidates of the past and Rupert, because Rupert is somebody who is completely different than what we have done in the past.
Yeah.
Because he is that emotional guy, that guy who connects with people on an emotional level as opposed to a philosophical level. And there's still fights going on within the party about that candidacy. Was it because he wasn't pure enough, or he, didn't present the kind of image that libertarians have always presented? But you know what? There's a certain segment of the population that we've tried to reach out to for a long time, and they haven't bought into our message. And maybe it was time to try something different. And I don't know. Maybe 5 years from now, there will be a whole lot of people who will go, I'm a libertarian because I saw Rupert.
Yep.
And he,
You got to scale that to a grander scale. But that worked completely. You guys had the highest percentage ever.
We doubled in the gubernatorial and the gubernatorial and the United States president. So, yeah,
that's the way to go.
We have to do a lot of. I mean, really, it ties into a lot of what Ann Coulter said. We started off the show by saying, we are pussies. This is the title of the show. This is what Ann Coulter said on Stossel out at SFL. Libertarians and pot, says an exasperated Coulter. This is why people think libertarians are pussies. We're living in a country that is 70% socialist. The government is taking 60% of your money. They're taking care of your health care, of your pensions. They're telling you who you can hire and what the regulations are going to be. And you want to suck to your little liberal friends and say, oh, we want to legalize pot. You know what? If you were a little more manly, you'd tell the liberals what your position is on employment discrimination.
How are you 70% socialist?
I don't know. Listen, man.
That doesn't even make sense.
Ann Coulter loves to go after other people's manhood.
70% of all economic activity is organized by the state.
So, are libertarians a bunch of pussies who only want to talk about dope and anti-war?
Some are.
I disagree. I think one of the best parts of the libertarian message is that pot option. You get in there and you say it's sales. That's the teaser to get someone to listen. If I go up to someone who's undecided and I say, "Let me tell you my position on employment restriction standards," they're going to snooze. Who cares? But for our younger generation, the demographics are going and the polls are going the way of social liberals and fiscal conservatives.
52% of Hoosiers. And look at the demographics on gay marriage here in Indiana. It was 4 years ago when they were talking about the gay marriage amendment, it was 80% of Indiana was for it. Now 50% is for it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with pot. Now it's 52% of Hoosiers are for at least decrim. And it's a growing number for legalization. And they see that Colorado hasn't fallen off the face of the earth yet. Yeah. So, I think she has a point that we need to be more bold.
She does.
That's where I think libertarians need to stop being so afraid. And I've heard so many criticisms, even in the last week within the party, just sort of conversations going on in the party about what do we stand for. Even in the Libertarian Party, we have this conversation. And we need to speak out about certain issues. We need to be bold about it. We need to tell people where we stand. And if people don't like that, then so what? But then there's also a segment of people who say, we also need to think like a political party, and we're trying to gain a majority of people. And you say something that somebody disagrees with, like legalize pot, then you're going to lose that person. So where do you balance it?
You are right now, but that's going to change over time.
Well, the biggest thing that I think people run into is that for libertarians, what you just described has always been, let's describe how we stand out, what we believe in on every single issue, and if you do not agree with us on even one of those, then you are no longer allowed to be associated with us, and we don't give a crap about you. Goodbye. And that's a lot of Americans.
Right, you must be a perfect 100 to be in the party, and that's a real problem.
But that's going away now.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to talk about, right? The libertarians.
Yes, we're waiting for old people to die.
So on Google Plus, I just made a comment about libertarians are at least attempting to be more inclusive. More all-inclusive, and the next comment was, "Wow, I'm glad to see some libertarians talking about all-inclusiveness, but that's not how it's always been."
Right.
And I replied, it's all about the non-aggression principle. That's really all you have to understand to be a libertarian. After that, you build upon that and work on specific issues, but you take that principle and apply it, and that's how you get libertarianism.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up here. So let's go around the round table, and what do you want to talk about? Anything we didn't get to? Anything that you're watching this week? Gault, you go first.
A couple things. First, that petition I was talking about to carry on campus. I'll post a link up on the We Are Libertarians page. You know anybody that goes to IUPUI? Tell them to share it, send it around, get people to sign it. We need more signatures than we have. A lot more. And
all right, thank you, Greg.
I'll post it on the Google Plus as well. And Google is amazing. So head on over there and join the light side instead of the dark side of the Force. And we'll have a great time together.
Well, Gault clearly violated the non-aggression principle against Creighton in the chat room the other night.
That's true.
Clearly. Dropping an F-bomb.
Words cannot violate a non-aggression principle. Period.
That's right.
It hurt.
Bullying.
Right here.
I do think it'll be fun to watch the president defend himself on the sequester. He's going to flip-flop. The media probably will, support him.
Yeah.
But Sean Hannity will kill him, so it'll be interesting to watch. And I do had one thing.
Sean Hannity, the all great and mighty Sean Hannity, with his little Robin, Mark Levin.
Oh, I don't mind Levin. I like what was that book? The one about statism, his most recent one on treason.
No treason, right?
Yeah, something along those lines. It was okay.
I'm just looking at the video here. This is just like left and right. Creighton is in a Bass Pro Shop with his chew in his mouth with his plaid shirt, and then I'm in tie-dye. We have a real left and right.
Who says libertarians aren't inclusive?
Yeah. What's up, Creighton? Tell us what's on your mind.
The Young Americans for Liberty, which isn't affiliated with this podcast in any way, shape, or form, is having a state convention on March 23rd, as I've said numerous times. Open to anybody, whether or not you are a YAL member or a student, it doesn't matter. You can come. $25 to register, or $10 if you're a dues payer. So, or $10 if you're a dues payer, and $10 to be a dues payer. So only $20. So you save money by coming to dues payer. But either way, get out to them. It's gonna be really good. It's on March 23rd at IUPUI. Keynote speaker is Matt Kibbe from FreedomWorks. Lots of trainings there throughout the day, student panels. I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff. So I encourage everyone who listens to this podcast, if they can, to register at yalliberty.org and attend the thing, because it's going to be sweet.
I would like to end on a very serious note. Friday night, after I didn't go to any of the speeches. I wasn't invited. I was a sponsor at the SFL. So Friday night, I decided to walk around Washington D.C. and check out some of the monuments that I hadn't seen since 2003. And not gay bars, Maya. And I was disturbed by something from this.
Did you go by the IRS building?
I did.
Taxes are the prices we paid to live in a civilized society.
Yep.
God, I want to every time I see
But there was something more sinister, something more evil. You know what that sound is, guys?
Wind?
No, that's not wind. Those are Canadian drones sending back messages to the motherland.
Over the reflecting pool?
Over the reflecting pool. They're doing it in our own mall. Listen to that. Stay ever vigilant from the great white menace of the north. See you next week.
I hate Maple
I hate you, Canada.
Music for We Are Libertarians is provided by Hoosier musician Brian Keith Wallen. Please check out his website, briankeithwallen.com. The song is Bad Spell. This podcast is produced by What is a Hoosier Productions.